Welcome to NMP Talk Show, the show that keeps you informed and engaged with topics about your mental health wellness. Today, with my co-host, once again, Figile, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Nero. How was your day today?
My day was okay. I was just waiting for this episode. My mind is
Same here.
always
I was
focused
looking
on one
forward to
thing.
the show today.
Awesome. I also am. Any house rules that we can follow today?
Oh yes, house rules. We are live on our platform, that is Riverside FM. If you want to ask a question, you are welcome to just pose your question on the chat box, and then we'll be able to ask our guest who's joining in today. We are live on TikTok. You can do the same on TikTok. If you have got any question or any comment, you can just type your comment. We will read it live on our Riverside FM. We are again live on Telegram, House Rules on Telegram. You just grab the mic and you raise your hand, and then you'll be able to interact with us on the studio. And we are streaming on YouTube, Facebook, and OBS. Should you want to have any comment or any question, just pose it there. We will be able to answer it on our guest.
Awesome.
Over to you, Nero.
Thank you, Figile.
Yep.
That was beautifully well done. So majority of people have gone back to work and schools are open, and it's just hectic now. People are coming from December
Mm.
holidays, vacation, as Tyler would call it from the States. We call them holidays over here. So people have rested enough. I don't know, enough is the right word. We could still use another 6 months to rest. But yeah, as usual, we have to go back to work and hustle. So everyone is gone back
Mhm.
to work. But now going back to work has its own challenges now. You took a pause, but you now restarting the whole circle. And today we're talking about these challenges that we're facing. And one in particular that we want to chat about, especially with our guest here that I'm going to introduce in a moment, is about burnout.
Mhm.
When you think about burnout, you're thinking about, the end of the year when you've worked so hard throughout the year and you can't wait to take your vacation, your time off from work in December time, and you're just dragging yourself off the bed and going to work and just waiting for that knock off time. Um,
Time. Mhm.
so we want to talk about that, and we have a guest, is a returning guest from our previous show. Most of our audience have changed. Tyler, welcome to our show, Tyler Mountain. The last time you were on our show, our audience from that time until now have grown, rapidly, and we have new audience that are not aware who Tyler Mountain is. By the way, Tyler Mountain is from Maryland. I hope I got it right this time. Is from Maryland, and she's going to
Yes.
introduce herself a little bit, for the benefit of those that just joined the show, catching up with NMP Talk Show. This we're on season 3 of our show. So tell her, just before we dive into, the elephant that's in the room, who is Tyler Mountain?
Thank you for having me again. I
Yeah.
definitely enjoyed myself beforehand. Let's see, I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist in the States. So I'm officially licensed in 2 states, Illinois and in Maryland. And I have kind of changed somewhat directions of my coaching business so that it is focusing on relationships, stress management, empowerment, and executive functioning. So it's still in this way of being able to balance work, life, and love. And in that case, still keep you from burning out because you're not just focused on one thing. You're
Mm.
making sure that you're taking time for yourself, taking time to be with family and friends, doing things that you enjoy. So I have been really just working on that and seeing therapy clients,
Mm.
and the weather is kind of chilly, so it just keeps me inside. So just waiting for spring to come around.
We are hot here. I wish I had an aircon in.
Very
I
much.
do have a fan, but it's making so much noise. I had to turn it off So when you see me sweating bullets, don't think I'm panicking. I'm just hot in here.
It's not freezing.
Yeah, yeah. All right, Taylor, let's jump in then. You just mentioned a little bit now that you're seeing clients to help them balance between their life, things they like doing, and also work and families. What strategies do you use? I mean, techniques do you personally, use to prevent burnout, or maybe the one that you encourage your patients, your clients?
I think a big one, yeah, is making sure that you're able to recognize what your body is doing and responding in certain situations,
Mm,
and then going from there and deciding, like, okay, these are the things that can help me to calm down, to feel happier, to get rested. And so by doing that, there is a tool called a body scan. So it's good to just try and relax. You close your eyes, and then you start from the top of your head and you work your way down to each section of your body, all the way down to your feet, to see if there are any physical responses that come up. So it could be heat, you can have tension, it could be a headache, you might feel warmth or pounding. And just being able to identify that, really look at that and, like, oh, okay, this is actually a really strong feeling.
mm,
I've had this for several hours now, or oh, it just came up as I was talking about this particular topic. And then going from there to see what helps. So it could be taking a walk, just taking a break from whatever work that you're doing. It could be taking a nap, dancing, playing a game. So just being able to recognize what your body is doing and how it's responding
mm.
when there is maybe some negative experience that's going on, so that you can best help yourself, so that you don't, like, continue to um, feel stronger emotions or to get into a spiral or anything like that.
Yeah,
Because that's a big one that
yeah.
I practice and then also share.
Oh, that's good. So, how are your clients responding to that? Do they find benefits of it? I guess if it wasn't working, you would be out of business for now, by
You
now.
wouldn't
But
be doing it.
well, I guess you're still in business, so it means it's working. But how's their response in that?
So a lot of my clients don't really know about that,
Mm,
which kind of makes sense. They're coming to therapy, they're coming to coaching because
mm,
something's not going well for them. And
mm,
so
Mhm.
um, in those sessions, I do push a little just for them to find something. There, it's occasional that someone really is like, I'm not really feeling anything. I was
mm,
already kind of relaxed before. It's okay. So it might have just been a misreading on my end. But for the most part, it's like, oh, okay, there's a tightening of my lungs. It feels like I'm being suffocated. And I'll be like, okay, so does that mean someone's sitting on your chest or something's on your chest?
mm.
Or that your lungs are being squeezed? Like, let's explore this more. So it's very different for people, which makes sense because we don't really learn how to inspect that
Mm,
aspect of what's going on for ourselves until it's like really bad and then you're having a panic attack or something.
mm,
But
Mhm.
afterwards, they usually say that they're a little bit more relaxed, and hey, that's good, at least given the time that we have. So if they practice it outside of sessions, that's great. Usually it's just a variety of tools, but with that one specifically, that's kind of a new one. And I see a lot of it happening in session of them, like, calming down a little bit. And they'll also say that they feel a little bit more relaxed.
awesome, awesome. Fikile, you
Well,
can jump in if you want there.
that sounds very great.
Mm,
Yes, yes. I just want to know because we want to actually avoid burnout early in the year when we're coming from holidays. So, how do you prioritize your workload to ensure that you do not become overwhelmed with your tasks that you have to do early in the year?
I will say that knowing your limits takes some time to examine. So if you are already seeing a whole bunch of clients beforehand or doing a whole bunch of hours of work before going on holiday or vacation, then the same thing's probably going to happen. The thing is, at the beginning of the year, right after everyone's taken a break, it takes some time for them to like get back into the rhythm of things. There are supervisors or C-suite people that are still on their breaks, like they take it at different times, so things don't really pick up maybe until like now, like February and March. So it seems like it's like this break really helped, but if you weren't really doing anything beforehand, it's going to kind of end up getting to the same place. So if you find that building up, this isn't your typical type of schedule, it is looking at where maybe boundary put into place. So if your schedule is like you have a whole bunch of meetings, you're not really stopping to have lunch, putting that in there. If you a whole bunch of hours, which is fine, that happens for a lot of jobs. Maybe it's saying that on 1 to 2 nights you're at a certain time, maybe not coming back to your work until the next day, or depending on who is in your household or your other priorities, might just be that you stop at 5, you have to go work out or do something else, and then you can go back to work a little bit later, hours before you go to sleep. So it's really putting those boundaries to see what has changed and what you're trying to keep up with it. You keep eating and going out and doing something that's more than just maybe like laying on the couch just watching TV. Like, are you spending time with people? Are you going out to do things that you enjoy? Take some time to see how your schedule really is. I just think that at the beginning it's still lower because it's just been coming off of 2 weeks of holiday stuff and just extra things because it's the beginning of the year. Things are a little bit slower.
Mhm.
So it might
Mhm.
not be until February or March things kick up. And I know, at least on my end, there's a lot of people that are like, it's the new year. I'm going to like do things differently. Let me go and seek therapy, seek coaching, kind of like going to the gym. Like, there are a lot more people that do start in the beginning of the year. So it really depends where you're in, and just seeing how the schedule usually flows, and then making some changes, especially with boundary, um, time management, that
Mhm.
Tala, you
can
spoke
help.
about, you also spoke about, laying on the couch, doing things that you like. I hope I got you right there. But now, let's say you going into a new position, and you're looking at this position. You want to impress your employer, and you also have a new environment. New employees around you or coworkers around you that you have to now learn who they are, what makes them happy, what doesn't make you happy. That can also drive you into a stress mode.
Mm-hmm.
So if your client comes to you and says, this is what I'm going through, how do I deal with it?
The first thing I would say is just to remember that this is the beginning. So
Mm,
there's a lot of things that you're not going to learn in the first couple of months,
mm,
honestly. It won't
mm,
be what to like months that you know really how the business operates and how the other people work with operate. Give yourself some grace in saying like you don't know what to do, or you're trying to make sure that you're doing all the right stuff or making your boss happy with and just going from there. Like, you've just started, this is something new, we're
mm.
still learning. And then if there are some concerns about maybe your work, you're not sure how it's going, to try and have a meeting with that supervisor or with that manager just to check in, see how you're doing, or find out what else you may need to learn. Because I would say any kind of employer would like to know that he is interested in the work, is going to be there and want to um, help help the business succeed. So checking in with them to see like what they could be learning, or maybe some tips to make sure that they're able to manage everything. And again, good idea. What was it? But a lot of it still comes from still having some grace with yourself and knowing that you're not going to have all of the answers. And what I was thinking about just now is there was someone recently who said that they started a job, a new job, and they know what they're supposed to do, but they weren't getting the right information to give the product.
Mm.
And that information was supposed to come from us. And so they reached out to their boss many times, sent emails, stopped by their office and said, "Hey, I need this information." But still the boss like didn't send anything, and then was like, "You're supposed to give me this task. What's going on?" And so the person responded by saying, "This was something that I've asked for. Is there any way that I can get it?" And it was still just taking them time to get this information. I think in those instances, if you're speaking to your boss, you're not getting the materials that you need from them many times, and no one else maybe knows that answer, then it is possibly going above them to try and get that information. But that's kind of last case scenario.
Yeah.
So it can be kind of a challenge when you are trying to do your work and you're not getting the support that you need.
Okay.
So if that is the case, really trying all your other routes of all the different types of communication, whether it's in person or by the phone, talking to other colleagues, and then, going beyond that if need be.
Going back to all that you mentioned, as a professional that you are, how do you notice that a person is showing signs of a potential burnout? I might be coming to you because I'm not feeling well, and I'm not sure that I'm actually hitting burnout. But you know, you are professional, you're trained,
Mhm.
and you can see the symptoms. What do you see? What are those signs that maybe you can advise our audience to be on the lookout?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I'll actually give an example. We didn't necessarily name it as burnout, but rather it was going in that direction.
Mm.
And it's a recent client who now works for themselves, puts in a lot of hour for their work, but the work that they do is um, helping service. So in this field, it's kind of hard to really get a lot of money if you are helping people, because it's just not very important, I guess, enough to be giving funding, or to see that it takes a lot to work with people or to work with families. So this particular client um, was getting a little frustrated with that, but also was having like sleep issues, was not on a good sleep schedule. They're trying to match their spouse's schedule, but theirs changed, so everything was a little chaotic. But then when it came back um, to work, just not really having a lot of motivation, and that's what they kind of came in for already. Was like, I know I need to get this work done, but it's not really happening very much. And so we've looked at a lot of different things, but still, after several months, sleep is still bad, work is just okay. And then when it came to the holiday break, they didn't get a lot of rest and a lot of sleep, partly because they're actually running around doing a whole bunch of holiday stuff, where you're visiting family or hosting parties or going to different events. So they already didn't have a lot of rest at that time. So then they took off, I think maybe the first week of January, got some rest, but still when it
Mhm.
came back to starting work, still felt tired, exhausted. Not much had changed. Sleep schedule still bad. And so it was like, we've seen this for a long period of time. You've made some frustrations or about your work. So I wanted to see, is it still about the work side? Like maybe that's just not enjoyable for you anymore. Maybe it's something else that you're interested in. But it ended up coming down to like, I can still do this work. I don't necessarily love what I'm doing, but
Mhm.
considering that I do have to make money to pay for my house, to pay for everything that I need,
Mm.
I can still do this job. That's not the issue. And so they said that there was something else that they had in mind, and kind of like just managing different businesses versus being in this one area. Let's say it's like IT, good stable job, but just wasn't really doing much for them. But they wanted to manage several businesses. So it was like, that's very possible. It's not going to happen in the next year, but it could happen over time. And we just have to see how we can get you from where you are now to managing all those businesses, doing what you actually want to do. But it may mean that, like, you need to take a break. And so I suggested you might have to see if you can take some time off just to like relax and breathe and find a sleep schedule again, or go to the doctors, find out what's going on, because this person at least has um, is fortunate enough to be able to take some time off, not necessarily months or a year or anything,
Mm.
but several weeks just to breathe. So it was suggested to do that, to really be able to just think and feel and rest and all of those things, but was also like, here's this other goal. We can get you to that goal.
Mm.
We just have to figure out what's happening now and kind of set you up for that. So it's
Mhm.
looking at the patterns, it's looking at how things have been over several weeks to several months,
Yeah.
to seeing like, okay, I tried A, B, and C. Things are still kind of the same. And then that's where you know if things are going well or not, if you might be headed towards burnout or not. So it's looking at really these patterns that you've had over a span of time, more than just a week, 2 weeks, and then really seeing like what may need to change, because it may not necessarily be your job. You might just have terrible sleep and you need to figure out what that is.
All
But
right.
if it is
Mm.
something where you're like burning out, it's really looking at what could be like the thing that you actually want to do, and being
Mm.
honest with yourself about that.
Mm. So it's all about balancing what you want to do or what you're doing.
Mhm.
Because the moment you lose your balance, it's when you're running on the lowest gear. And when you're driving a car with a stick, you'd understand what that means.
Yes.
But back here at home, it's a manual car. If you changing your gears and you leave it on the third gear and you're driving on the highway, we know you're going to bend the clutch plate, right?
Mhm.
Especially driving at a higher speed, you're going to bend the
Mhm.
clutch plate. So balancing your gears, meaning balancing your life, the activities around your life, will help you manage your life, in general, and you won't be burned out.
Yeah.
So, Fikile,
You have to make adjustments where needed.
yeah, yeah. I guess it's one thing that most of us are struggling to do, making adjustments.
Mhm.
Because when our heart is set on something, we just want to take on it and then push it all the way until we cannot anymore. And like you explaining with your one of your clients, that they were trying to achieve something, but they were not getting there. And finally, you told them, this is not going to happen now, you know? And just to know that if you reaching out for something and it's not attainable now, you don't have to push yourself so hard that you're not even able to get to that point. You know, just let things flow, you know, lay them out nicely and until you get to your destination. Anything
Yeah.
that you would like to add on or ask, Figile
Yeah,
there?
I'm sitting here, I'm thinking, you might want to know what might cause a burnout,
Mm,
especially when you're at a workplace, if you're self-employed. I think Tyler has touched base with the example of a client.
mm,
But in your opinion, Tyler, what are some common causes of burnout in the workplace?
yeah.
And how can an employee, or if you are self-employed, how can the employees and the employers work together to mitigate these factors?
I think that a lot of the balance comes from the top.
Mm,
And if you're in a work environment that encourages working 80-hour weeks, spending time at the office, not really leaving or seeing family or friends or anything like that, then it's going to be very hard for you to try and have, say, a 60-hour work week and still be believed as like a good employee. So it depends on that culture of the job there.
mm,
I
Mhm.
was lucky enough to be at a previous job where I worked at a university where my supervisor was very big on like taking breaks. And just with how the university was set up, you had certain dates that were um, put in there, and they're like, well, if you don't use it, then you lose it. So
mm,
I was like, hey,
Mhm.
you still have 3 days on of your break of your PTO.
mm.
So go use that before it's the end of the year. Take that
Mhm.
time off.
Oh, you lose it.
That was the culture there. Say
Yeah.
again.
Oh, you lose the days. Yeah.
Right. And so there are some people that are like, no, I still have to work. But if they're there,
Mhm.
go and use them, because odds are you're doing enough work. It's not going to necessarily change if you're getting a promotion or more pay, unfortunately, especially if you're in big corporations. So like, go and use that time. But I think a lot of it does come to what your supervisors are doing, because if they have these very high expectations that
Mm,
require a lot of energy and require a lot of time, and that's maybe not where you're at or doesn't match, say, your lifestyle or personality, then it might be either finding a different company or finding a different job that matches up a little bit better. So it comes to, I think, um, what are these standards that are set up? Because otherwise, it's really hard for you to try and take that time for yourself and feel very confident that your job is safe, that you are
Mhm.
still being seen as like a good employee or a good
mm.
colleague.
You know, as the saying goes,
You're
yeah.
touching nicely on the employer employees
Mm,
type of situation. How about if you're self-employed? You know that if you don't work, you don't get paid, so you have to put in extra. How can I actually realize that I'm now heading to burnout and I need to stop a little bit? Or what is it that I can do as a self-employed person?
Yes, thank you for bringing that up. Um, so I think there's the part of like, did you just quit your job and get into the self-employed business and you're building from there? If
Mhm.
you have the money to do so, like just you have set funds aside, all right, see how much time you can afford to really take time to assess or reassess what it is that your business is about, what you're trying to do, if this actually like interests you, what changes might need to be made. Like, take that time. It's going to get there. um
Mhm.
I've been in a situation of having to change industries. So then when I went from working in higher ed and decided to fully focus on therapy, that meant that I still needed to finish up a whole bunch of hours and get all of these things in order to get my license. And I have been blessed to have my family be here so that I can take some of that time to figure out what it is that I'm really trying to do, what works for me, how I can best use my energy and not burn out or get extremely tired early on and not want to be able to put anything into my business. So I had to remind myself, like, I'm in a situation where I don't have to worry. So I can take some of that pressure off of myself to try and make sure that everything is perfect or good or moving at a certain pace, because I tend to do that. I can easily put a lot of pressure on myself trying to make sure that everything's in order. But I
Mhm.
did have to keep that in mind of like, I don't have to rush certain things.
Yeah.
So I think that if you are in a place where you have the financial beings of taking a slower time to build up your business, do that. If you still
Okay.
need money, because that's the thing that's going to balance you out, then it is still having your other job or finding another job and just recognizing that your goal just is going to be a little bit spread out, but that it's still possible. Not that it's like it has to happen now. Odds are
Mhm.
it doesn't, and there's something we're supposed to be learning, or say it is that resting, because I think that if it is supposed to work out, it's kind of, I think I'm using the word of serendipitous correctly. Like that's serendipity happens.
Mm.
But
Mhm.
otherwise, like it's okay to take that time to get there, build your business so that it's actually strong, it
Yeah.
is well thought through, it matches your personality and your energy and everything like that. So it does unfortunately come down to like money and how you can
It
take care of
does.
yourself.
I think
So
everything comes down to money, and unfortunately,
yeah.
when you're running your own business, it's all about money.
Mhm.
It's not about anything else.
Yep.
It's all about money, and you know, it's very hard to advise. Well, this is me, you know, very hard to advise somebody when it comes to starting a business, when to start a business,
Mhm.
because the dynamics are different. Some people
Mhm.
they just quit their full-time job and start running their own business, and from the word go they are successful. Some of us take even
Mhm.
more than 5 years, 10 years just to build something that's a little bit sustainable. You know, it's not completely
Mhm.
sustainable, but
Mhm.
a little bit sustainable,
Yeah.
and that can put so much pressure, you know, on oneself. It can also put pressure on the family, you know, that's dependent on you.
Yes.
So I find it very hard to advise somebody
Hmm.
because the dynamics, like I said, is different. But now you as a
Mhm.
professional, I think your word carries more weight, you know, in advising on such matters. Unlike now
Mhm.
going about and advising to say, no, if you start a business, make sure you have 500,000, you know, saved as a backup. You know, when you're starting up and you don't you don't have any clients to serve, no income coming, at least you have something to carry you. But
Yes.
you as a professional, you would say health wise, this is what you need to do. Now, um,
Mhm.
just backstepping a little bit, we were talking about, you know, our employers um, actually have a bearing on how we carry burnout, you know, or how we can avoid burnout. And one
Mhm.
thing that came to my thought was it takes two to tango. If
Mhm.
I see that I'm heading towards burnout, and because of the workload, you know, the targets and all of those, I cannot say for myself, you know, I'm taking a pause. I need to reset, and then I'll come back to work. My boss wants has a deadline, wants this to
That's
happen,
done. Mhm.
you know.
Mhm.
So anything that you would like to advise our employers there, from a medical or a profession that you're in, on how they can treat their employees so that they can manage, their targets and also deal with burnout.
And just to make sure I heard you correctly,
Mm.
wondering about how the employers can advise their employees so that they don't burn out or at that point.
I was just saying it takes two to tango. If I see that I'm heading towards burnout, but my supervisor or my employer says this is the deadline, I'm not budging. This is what you need to deliver. You said you can work under pressure. So
Mhm.
what I'm saying is, you as a professional, how do
Gotcha.
you, advise these employers to take care of their employees? Because at the end of the day, this is the employee that will generate income for the company, and for you as a
Mhm.
boss, to have a beach house wherever you you want it.
Gotcha, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. So in looking at the different types of ship, and there's so many, there's more that's being added, but I would say that I come from like a servant leadership kind of place, which means that I want to make sure that I'm giving to the people, I'm giving to my employees, I'm making sure that I'm assisting where I can and not just dictating where like people are going and what they're doing and being separate from everybody else.
Mm.
So coming from that kind of standpoint, which I personally think is the best way to kind of go and be a leader, is to ask how you can help. So they could really be in a situation where just at that moment things are very hectic because there have been losses in the family, there have been big financial changes that have come up. So this isn't their norm. So checking with them, seeing what maybe they need help with, whether it's something that the boss can do or if it's getting more employees to help with that particular task. So seeing how they can help. If it is something that seems to be consistent, then it is trying to find out like if that is the best fit for them. If they do want to try and or if they do want to stay in the business doing the work that they're doing, I would probably still suggest like talking to a therapist or a coach to better understand what is going to figure out a little bit behind like maybe why work is as stressful as it is if there aren't any glaring issues like say the loss or financial troubles or something like that. It really can come down to just say you're not getting the best sleep.
Mm.
Honestly, it could be relationship stuff or maybe something going on with your child and there's a lot of tension at home. There could be just a lot of unsurfaced things that have not been talked about and it comes fairly recognized, but by going and talking to someone that can help us better understand like what is going on. So if it's something that I as a leader, supervisor, boss can help with, finding out what that is and
Okay. So there needs to be a communication between employer and employee. All right. I think we lost him. Internet is misbehaving today, I must say.
Yeah, it's misbehaving
Yeah.
today, but it's very interesting to hear this. No,
Mm.
you mentioned something very interesting while we waiting for Taylor to come back.
Yeah.
Especially when you are self-employed,
Mm.
it's very difficult to say I'm gonna stop working now
Mm.
if you know that there are people who are financially dependent on you.
Yeah.
So now you need to think. It's one thing that you need to think when you're starting a business that there will be
Mm.
times like this,
Mm.
and there's the pressure of working so hard that you might head into a burnout.
Yeah.
So how are you going to deal with it?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's one of the things that you need to plan for.
Yeah.
I see Tyler is back.
Is back. Welcome back, Taylor. Sorry about your internet there.
thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you.
So
A lot
Tyler,
going on with technology today.
yeah, no, it's
Yeah,
misbehaving. We have gremlins, in Maryland. They must just move to South Africa.
She must
Sounds
just
good
join
for
us in
me.
South Africa.
I just have to figure out the time difference and then I'll be fine.
Don't worry, just land yourself here. Everything will take care of itself. Now, tell us, what organizational or systemic changes do you think can be implemented to reduce this risk of burnout with the employees, especially as we're talking about early burnout?
Again, it's one of those things I think comes from the top
Mm,
and the work kind of culture.
mm,
Um, I have I have a degree that's in family therapy, and then I have a degree that's in business.
mm,
Now, what tends to happen is a lot of people finish their MBA program and then they're consultants. So there are companies like Deloitte, KPMG, and these are very um, great opportunities for people to
yeah.
a lot of time and energy for it. I have a cousin, actually several cousins that have worked as consultants and they're always traveling. They're having to deal with multiple time zones. So then they're up at some weird hours and you got to try and throw some sleep in there. I could not do that. I try to think of ways that I could do that, but that is not for me. I am a let me wake up later because I don't go to sleep all that early
Mm,
and I need to just like think things through a little bit more.
yeah.
So there are people that are great for that. You can be in that company. Also, sometimes in those bigger corporations, they're like, here you go. You can now go and get a Peloton. You can go to the gym and have these like free passes or whatever it is. So they at least try to give that to their employees for that. But I do think it has to do with like your your mental space, personality, the type of energy that you have to keep up with whatever the culture is. So
Mhm.
sometimes I think it might be a fit thing where maybe that the way that the company or organization works makes sense industry. Just do you the energy and mental strength like stay with that as it is. But
Mhm.
then you that really don't care. It's about the bottom line. They just money. They don't really care about the employees all that much.
Mm,
Some people can go and like disregard all parts of that and can just be there to like do their job and leave. If you can do that, that's great. Go get your money. But then there's some people that are really just like, no, I need to have these boundaries in place. I have to go get my kid. I have medical things that I need into. I have a family member that's not got to take care of them and all of those different things. And if your supervisor, company as a whole doesn't really focus on your own mental health or the fact that you're still one that has to survive and thrive and like
mm,
be able to do things,
yeah.
then it might be that you have to leave. So I think that when it comes to looking at, say, applying for a certain job, it's finding out a little bit about the culture as well to see if that's a good fit for you, because be very different depending on like which organization that you're in and still be doing the same job. But I think it really does come from top down in terms of
Yeah.
how things are set up, and it's actually like healthy for your employees. So if there is a company that can't really do that,
Yeah.
then look somewhere else so that you can still do what you need to
Yeah.
and go to work and make that money
Yeah. Yeah.
and not burn out.
Shem, did you hear that sound? I sometimes don't like to hear
Yeah,
it.
it's the one that we don't like while we still have much to talk about, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe we can
I felt like I was on one of those award shows and they're
uh,
telling me to like
uh, Like wrap up. So
I think our host has frozen.
oh, am I back now?
There you go.
You back now? Yes.
Yep.
Welcome
Oh,
back.
okay.
Welcome
All
back.
right. Sorry about that. So let's wrap up our discussion. Since we're
Mhm.
talking about post vacation, in that we took a vacation or we rested, for the holidays, and we've spent time with the family. We're rejuvenated. Now we've gone back to work. Now we're facing all these challenges. Targets are being added, um, like crazy. And you spoke about forcing yourself to take a rest, right?
Mhm.
And we also spoke about having a balance in what we do. So what you give into to work and also to your family and yourself. Striking that
Mhm.
balance also
Hmm.
helps you, to move on swiftly with life. Now, to recap on these advices, what can you advise our audience? Maybe you can personalize it, and say, for yourself, what do you do proactively to monitor your own stress levels and burnout, and then switch it over to us as guests. She's frozen.
I think he froze again.
Oh,
But did you get the question?
yeah. Did you get the question?
No, the only thing I heard was like stress advice, I think.
Oh, yes. I was saying, maybe you can personalize it and say how you proactively monitor your stress levels and to prevent burnout. And that's just send it to us and say, this is what you can also do, to minimize the stress levels before you are burnout.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, a lot of it is taking it one day at a time because different things can come up. You may know you're going to, in my case, like see a certain amount of clients each day. However,
Mm.
I know the client is coming in with. It could be something that is a crisis. It could be something that is very sad and they're talking about grief. It could be just like maintenance. So just taking it one day at a time and then just checking in with yourself, especially when you don't feel like your normal, rested, happy kind of self. Maybe you're tired and you're like, okay, I'm just waiting for nighttime, I can go to bed? Or is it that you're thinking of everything that's coming up later down the week, all the time, what that's kind of doing to your brain, to your stress levels, to your body? So just taking it one day at a time and then adjusting from there. So even though I can still have a lot of like worries or stress because I'm like, oh man, at the end of like this week, I'm celebrating two birthdays. It's Super Bowl here. I have an event that I have to attend to, and I'm like very north in my state, and I have to go to both like Baltimore, which is not too far for me, then Washington, D.C., and then two different locations in another state that will have me just driving up and down the highway. So I'm thinking of that, which means I have to move things a little bit earlier. So I'm already preparing for the fact that it's going to be a little bit of a crazy week, but I know it's not going to be like following weeks.
Yeah.
So just kind of assessing as they are for that day, maybe for that week, and just trying to adjust where you can. And then if you really do just need a break, to take that break.
Mm.
You'll have to come back to your work or whatever it may be, but just accepting that you can't do everything all at once and it's okay to just take a break.
All right.
So
Thank
I
you
try to
so
keep
much.
that in mind of like
Right.
I
Yeah.
don't have to do everything just right now.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Tyler, for that.
Yeah.
We really enjoyed your advice, your professional advice on how we can deal with the stresses that we're facing and balancing life. And from what you just said there, what I'm taking from it is that maybe for the benefit also for our audience is that we need to assess the things that are happening, our future plans. And once we assess it and see what is required, how much energy will be required for that, we move things around so that we can accommodate. And then we do a plan. So planning also helps, and adjusting, our schedules. Like you're saying, you have to travel between states. There will be a long drive for you. Same here. Some of the things that we have to do, they take quite a drive, and also, a much planning that is needed for those things to happen. And take a break, most importantly. That I think a lot of us ignore or forget to
To
take.
do. Yes.
Yeah.
Taking a break. If you are
Mhm.
able to take a break, you give your brain a chance, to simmer through the information that you've been gathering. And sometimes taking a walk helps you think things clearer, or see things
Mhm.
clearer.
Mhm.
And that's what I took from our discussion. I don't know, Figile, what did you take away from?
I think you just said it all,
Yeah,
that you need to take a break, whether you're working for a company or you're working for yourself.
yeah,
You need to take a pause,
yeah,
every time that when you feel like you're about to burn out, or anytime before you are even burning out,
yeah,
you need to take a pause to
yeah,
prevent you being burning out. Exercise, balance work and your family life,
mm,
so that at least you know what is coming. Like
yeah.
you've said, planning is very
Well
crucial
prepared.
in this
Yeah.
one.
Thank
Mhm.
you so much, Tyler. It's always a pleasure to have you back on our show, and hopefully we can
Thank you for
still have
having
you.
me.
Make sure you don't block me, so that I can invite you back to the show. And thanks to my co-host as well for also inputting valuable information on this topic, and also our audience on Telegram. We thank you for connecting. We missed your voices today, but I think you took a lot more from the discussion that we had with our audience, our guest. Next week, though,
Mhm.
we just going to relax things a little bit. Next week, it's a book review, and we're also calling out to authors to reach out to us if they want their books to be reviewed on the show. So I will be disappearing next week. I'm gonna leave the space for the ladies here to take care of the show, because they are avid readers than myself. I'm more technical, so I'm just gonna leave the space for them. Make sure that they run in the show. So please join them next week, same time, 6:30, where we will be reviewing a local author. And yeah, if you have any suggestions of any books that you want them to review as well, make sure you connect and also share with them. Or what you're currently reading, you can also share on the show. So thank you once again, Tyler. Thank you, Figile.
Thank
And
you.
my name is Neo
Yeah.
Morapedi, the host of NMP Talk Show, with my co-host Figile Nkosi, and this is how we sign it. You need internet?
So